time is it?
Pass up.
Time. Every gal. I go me up.
Pass up.
Don't stop, girl, wine.
Drink and rave till the morning light, my brother.
Center. Have a shot, son.
All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome. So we hope you've been staying well, eating all your fruits and veggies, getting all the sun. You know, it's springtime. We hope you're getting in that vibe. As always, before we get started, we want to say thank you for listening, sharing this space with us, letting us know what you think of these discussions, and even suggesting topics, which is where our discussion today actually came about. So we would just want to say thank you. We really appreciate you spending some of your time with us. We really appreciate that. So before we dive into this very juicy episode, we're going to do a little roll call. This is Carrie. Shar?
Hey, guys.
Suf?
Right here.
Mish?
Hey.
Awesome. Welcome, ladies. Good to see y'all. I feel like I haven't seen y'all in forever.
Forever. It feels like forever. It probably was last week, but it feels like forever.
Pandemic time. It's rough. So before we jump in, we have some special guests with us today. I want to actually shout out one of our listeners who inspired today's conversation. His handle, I want to say, is Not Creon on Insta. He and I met probably over 10 years ago now, halfway across the world. He was getting married at the time and life has happened, but he's piqued our interest in this topic. So we wanted to just shout him out real quick and say, big up yourself. We hope you enjoy this episode. It's for you. So today we're talking about non-traditional relationships, specifically polyamory. And we want to mention here that there are many variations, we know, of non-monogamous relationships. We know that there can be an open relationship and it's very different from polyamory. And so today we want to be clear. We are only discussing polyamory. We do identify and know that our outlook can be translated to other non-monogamous situations. And so in that vein, we figured the more, the merrier, the richer the conversation. And so we invited Jhenn and Sham from the Monogamish podcast to share with us today. And by share, we mean educate us. That's really what this is about during today's conversations. So a little bit about our guests today. Both are Jamaican born and raised, and they co-host the Monogamish podcast. Jhenn, I'll start with you.
Jhenn, you got to wave or say something. You got to cough.
Hello. I'm here. Wait, was that enough?
Yes, that's great.
So Jhenn identifies as a pansexual, polyamorous romance novel enthusiast. Okay. She is passionate about music. You like that?
Yeah, I like that. I like how you did
okay.
that.
Y'all should take me on tour with y'all. Just let me know. I would introduce you. He is the creator of Monogamish podcast, the Black Charettes. Did I get that right?
It's Blachelorettes, like Black Bachelorettes.
Oh,
okay.
Black Charettes. Okay.
Blachelorettes.
Yes.
Okay. And Stacked podcast. She's also a bookstagrammer and a sensitivity reader for queer, Caribbean, and or polyamorous content. You can usually find Jhenn having a conversation with amazing people like today, enjoying a glass of wine in her underwear.
Today, not in her underwear, but the wine.
Okay, the wine. Okay. While reading a book and being vaguely interested on social media because she's over social media. Yeah. Yes. So Sham is also with us. Sham has been non-monogamous for 11 years. He and his wife started as swingers and are currently practicing hierarchical polyamory. We are going to ask you about that later on because I am very curious about what that means. He is also the co-host of Monogamish podcast and has maybe a podcast of his own in the works.
Okay.
All right, Sham. All right, we here for that.
Hey, what's up, people?
Stay tuned. Yes. So Sham also mentioned he enjoys soca music and short walks on the beach to the bar, so he can spend some time having a drinky drink.
Short walks
Did
on the
we
beach
miss
to the
anything?
bar.
I think you covered most of it. Yeah, sounds accurate to me.
Goodness.
Awesome. So the Monogamish podcast is a podcast about non-monogamy and polyamory through a Black Jamaican lens. They make it clear that they aren't experts, but their goal is really to have an open and honest conversation, right, about relationships, much like we do here. We're all about open and honest conversations. So this feels like a match made in heaven. We're very excited.
Yes, agreed.
Yes.
Yes, we're happy to be here.
Yes, also
Welcome,
excited.
welcome. Yes. So there are, right, as you can imagine, many assumptions made about non-monogamous relationships. And even prepping for this episode in full transparency, and by I mean we were a little nervous about the discussion. We wanted to make sure we didn't sound silly and we didn't want to be disrespectful in any way or insensitive, because we are naive to this space for the most part. And so to make sure we're working from a similar base of understanding, can you both share with us, maybe start by sharing what polyamory means?
Oh, yeah. I can just start on the very basic definition. Poly means many. Amory means love. Many loves. And so of course, like you said, there are different types of polyamory as well within that. So there's non-monogamy, there's polyamory, and then even within polyamory, there's different ways to practice that. But pretty much the most simple definition is that it involves people having intimate relationships with multiple people with the consent of everyone involved. So that's very important. Everyone has to agree to this. You can't just be polyamorous and then not tell the other person that you're polyamorous and have several other relationships.
Where does that happen? Jamaica.
Yeah, I mean, just saying, we're very familiar with this concept from home, right? Where it's like, oh no, like we're monogamous, but he's just out there with his 4 other girlfriends. It's totally fine. I'm totally okay with it while I die inside. It's fine. So it's a very familiar concept. We're used to that whole non-consensual part of it, but consent part is very important. Like consent is important in all relationships, especially in polyamory. That communication, that understanding, we all have to be on the same page about what's happening.
But if, sorry, you said the person knows that that the other person is doing it, but so would that not be non-monogamous? If they know, but maybe not.
It's non-monogamous, but it might not be polyamorous or.
I think Jhenn is speaking to situations that happen in Jamaica a lot where the woman might know, but she didn't necessarily agree to it.
Gotcha.
Right.
So she knows the man out there doing whatever, but this was never a thing that they both said were doing.
Gotcha.
She just decided, and then she's just living with it.
Gotcha.
That's not really polyamory.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I hope y'all say this a couple times for the people in the back, because that makes sense.
I know. Having that conversation is important.
It only works if both sides agree. Well, if all sides agree.
Right. Okay. That's really helpful. Thanks for clarifying that for us. So we're starting from the same kind of understanding and base. I think we're also curious, and ladies chime in here, right? What are some common misconceptions people often make, you find in your experience, people make about polyamorous relationships?
Well, I think the main thing people expect, or I guess misconceptions they have, is that we don't feel jealousy, that there's no jealousy, there's no, like, you're just okay with everything, you can just go out there and do whatever because you're polyamorous, so clearly you can just have as many extra girlfriends or boyfriends or sexual partners that you want. And that's not the case, because we're still human, we still feel feelings. You can be jealous in this kind of relationship. And another misconception is that you can't cheat, because other people think, all right, if you're someone who cheats a lot, this might be the relationship type for you, which is not the case. You can still cheat in any kind of relationship, especially polyamory, because as long as there is a breakdown of trust, a betrayal of trust, it's still cheating. So I think those are the two big ones. You can't cheat, you can't be jealous, which are both still very present in polyamory, I think.
That's interesting. Jhenn?
I will say that a lot of people assume, especially when you're a woman who practices polyamory, that means that I always want a threesome or that I always want to sleep with you. And
you're like, both of which are untrue.
Both of which are untrue. Don't get me wrong. I can enjoy a threesome if there are people that I genuinely want to be in that situation with. And if I do want to sleep with you, I will let you know. If I haven't told you, chances are that's not really where I'm going with this.
I have a quick question. I listened to you guys' podcast, and I kind of have a general idea as to where you guys are coming from, meaning how this started for you, but I don't think anybody else kind of knows unless they've listened, I guess, even from the beginning. So I kind of wanted to know when you guys at what point realized that this is better for you than monogamy. And so we can have like an idea of where it's coming from. As in, you just didn't get up and say, I'm going to be, this is the lifestyle for me, this works. If you didn't try it before, or, you weren't exposed to it, how did you guys come into that?
I was a special little snowflake as a child.
I love this story.
I figured out when I was very young that I liked boys and girls. Obviously, as a 6-7-year-old, I'm not sure what the levels of sex are with that, romance, or any of those things. I just knew that I had a girl that I wanted to be her best friend so bad. And I wanted to live at her house with her and her parents, and they could like make us food and we would sleep in the same bed, and it would be awesome for the rest of our lives. Because clearly the rest of our lives is only a couple of months.
Right.
So acknowledging that as a child that I had those intimate feelings for a woman kind of was like, okay, so when I grow up, I want a husband and a wife. That makes perfect sense. But obviously, growing up in Jamaica, that's not quite what is presented to us as an option. Right. So I tried monogamy. I tried heterosexuality. Neither stuck. Didn't quite work out. I think the real turning point for me in that journey was I was dating a male partner at the time, and we were doing really great, but I was really unhappy. And, picking fights, doing the things that we all do instead of opening our mouths and having conversations. And he was like, what is going on with you? Like, you're being weird. What's happening? And I was like, I just miss vagina. I don't want to just be with a penis for the rest of my life. And I mean, literally, and pretty much he was like, okay, so let's rework our relationship. Let's, we're committed to each other, but you're allowed to sleep with other women. I'm like, really? He is like, yeah, I knew you were into women when I met you. Why would I try to stop you now? And so the man didn't stick, but those principles and ideas did, just because that freedom that was given to me, that I was allowed to explore that and not feel trapped. But let's be honest here. Men are great, but they're not that great. Especially when you know the other side, especially when you've dated women, why would I just want to be with a man? But that's also me. That's also me. So that was my journey to that acceptance. And so having known I was non-monogamous my whole life, I only really came into that acceptance portion oh my God, it's been 10, 11 years as well. Damn, I'm old.
Ma'am, let's not go there.
Right? It's the old
no. Sham, have you been non-monogamous before your wife?
No, funny enough. So it started with her back in college. So now you make me think about years myself too. It was about 1920 at the time when we had just gotten together. We're in college at UA, and we, how do I say this? Started to experiment because I discovered she was bisexual. So, as young college kids do, kind of mess around. So tried bringing in a girl for fun every now and then. And so for a while, it was just experimental phase of college, that kind of stuff. And then as time went on, we sort of evolved for it to be more serious because like in the beginning, we had very simple rules. Oh, you can only do it if the three of us are there. And then over time, it was like, well, what if I'm not, like, what if a girl comes to me and you're not there? And I'll be like, well, yeah, go have fun. I'm not going to complain. And then as time went on, it became like, all right, what if another man comes along, or what if a girl comes to me? And so from there, went from, all right, maybe this is not just a physical thing anymore.
Right.
Maybe we can try to make this emotional. Maybe we're open to the idea of actual whole relationships outside of just the two of us. And yeah, that's how we got here over 10 years now. Similar.
Has it been constant? Like, has there always been, I mean, once you guys decided, you got to that point, has there always been another person? I mean, okay, maybe I shouldn't go there. I know Carrie wants to ask. Well, I know Carrie wants to ask you to explain your, what is that?
Setup?
Well, yes. What is it called? I'm sorry. I'm not looking at any notes.
The hierarchical.
Right. The hierarchical. Right.
Polyamory.
Right. And I'm sure that's a setup for you and your wife. That's how you guys identify. So how does that work? And is it like the three people or two or more people? What does that look like?
Okay, I can answer that. All right. So the first part of the question, it's not always constant, because there's not always someone there, because as much as we are open to having other people, there's not always the right person. I guess another misconception I should say for polyamory is that it's easier because you can just go anywhere, but it can be harder because one, you have to find someone you like hard enough already. Two, they have to understand the situation, because I find that it's women are more open to the idea of you cheating on your wife than your wife being okay with you having another person.
Right.
So that's something that will come up a lot. Like,
wait, could you repeat that? Women are no, I'm serious.
Not women, but when I say women, but people in general, they're more open to the idea that you're cheating than you're in a non-monogamous relationship. So
well, okay, so, I can see that.
Yeah. Like like if you approach them and they're like, oh, there's a thing on the side, you're giving your wife one, fine. But if you tell them that, she's okay with it and this is just our setup,
then you're weird.
So you kind of have to find the right person that kind of understands that.
Right.
Got you.
So as far as it being constant, no, not really. It was more in college when you could find more people who are, I guess, more open-minded or willing to try new things. But as you get older, everybody kind of settles down, and now it's hard to find like proper. So we've had situations where it's been I guess what you call a throuple, where it's us and another person and everyone is kind of together. We've had situations where one of us will have like someone on the side that's not necessarily a full-blown boyfriend or girlfriend, but definitely more than friends, and definitely more than just a sexual partner. And so even like right now, there's no real other person in our lives because it's kind of hard to find anyone right now because we're in lockdown. So and as far as how the hierarchy works is that just means that you have different people at different levels, which for us, because we're married, it's kind of understood that it's going to be hard for a new person to reach that level. So as of right now, anybody new that comes in, they're going to be secondary, which kind of sounds, a way, but some people are fine. They don't want to be. I was going to say some people will everything.
Not so much.
So even in the throuple, even when it's the three of you having the relationship, so all of you, so say it's a woman coming in with you and your wife, it's still hierarchical where it's you guys at the top and the person is at the other level.
In a way, in that situation, it's less
hierarchical.
In that there'll always be a stronger bond between us because we've been together, the two of us, husband and wife, longer. So that bond is naturally stronger.
Right.
But it's less, I guess, evident, other than when you choose to do things separately for like an anniversary or something like that. So even in those cases, it's still a hierarchy, not necessarily fully equal.
Yeah.
But it's not so much like, we're out and, oh, she goes in first or stuff like that. It's just, there's an understanding that some things will be for the married part of the group. And then,
Right.
And then even then, little bonds will form between the like duos in the group.
Mm-hmm.
So when we had that relationship, the two of them had a stronger relationship than me and the third.
Yeah.
And that was understood as well. So yeah, in that case.
Yeah.
Is that
It sounds like there's a lot of keeping up.
It can be. Depending on how your relationship is set up, it can be a lot of like keeping track of different people, different times, different like birthdays and styles.
Mercy.
Yeah. It can be. So it's really not for everybody.
Listen.
I've never been in a
No, go ahead, Jam.
Oh no, so I've never been in a situation where I had to like keep track of multiple like women's separate personalities and schedules and stuff like that.
No, that's a serious thing.
Yeah. I don't think I could handle that level.
Serious.
Would I rate you?
No, for real.
Boy, that'll be my part-time job at that point.
I have a question. What are the rules regarding having kids?
Sham, what are your rules?
Oh.
Because so I'll say for me, and right now I don't care who has what with who, right? That's not where I'm at. I have a partner who's married to someone else right now. They have a kid. That's totally fine. That's your business. I don't care about that because that's your thing. Any children that are made within the union, I'm not gonna like shun them. That's not what I do. If we are still together and I am a part of your child's life, I'm going to consistently be there for your child. But again, I am operating from a single/solo point of view where I am not married to someone, while Sham is married to a whole other person who might have feelings about, hey, well, what if you got our girlfriend pregnant? What does that look like?
Right.
So, or what if your wife's partner gets her pregnant? Like, how does that work?
See, this is funny. Through all of our, how many episodes are we at now? I don't remember. Jen, how many episodes are we reached?
How many episodes are we at
now?
60 something.
Yeah, so
66, 67.
That's a lot.
Through all those episodes, this has not come up yet. At least not this explicitly.
Next one.
But I'm gonna answer. Yeah. That would have to be a discussion between the two of us. As of right now, I don't believe either of us are okay with the idea of any of us getting pregnant with someone else. That would be too hard to explain. So it's not a rule right now, but it's something I definitely feel we both, agree on. If we have a child, I feel we would treat it like how a single woman, like a single mother would treat it, where any outside person, it would depend on how serious it is. So, if it's just a little fling, you don't necessarily need to be in the child's life. But if it gets serious to the point where seeing it constantly, it's a serious thing, then at the very least, we would introduce you as like, an uncle or something, like everybody have their auntie that's not really their auntie.
That is so Jamaican, by the way. Jesus.
Yes.
I have a son though.
So in that case,
so much uncle, you have so much uncle.
But that's
very really think about it. Think about it. How many uncles and aunties do you have, like with your parents, or like
who aren't related?
Listen. I know that of one particular uncle who is definitely my mother's ex-boyfriend, like absolutely my mom's ex-boyfriend, and also a friend of my dad's. So,
I mean, listen,
that's normal. That's normal.
Yep, it is what it is, right?
That is very normal.
So speaking of these cultural expectations, how do you both navigate general, Jamaican cultural expectations while living what many may consider a non-traditional lifestyle?
I've always been like anti-cultural norms, I guess. So people just know me as the weird one who likes women, who does all this stuff, and no one is surprised by my lifestyle because that's never been something I've hidden per se. Like, I mean, I came out to my mom as polyamorous with the couple that I was dating. Like, they were in the room and I was like, hey, by the way, you know how they're always over at the house when I come to visit? It's because we're fucking.
You said this to your parents?
I said to my mother. I said to my mother.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
my mom. That's who I lived with when I was in Jamaica.
You did
very
it
chill.
straight like that? Like straight?
Yeah.
No chaser.
No chaser. I was just like, yeah, that's the reason they're always here, because we're together. We're doing stuff.
There may have been alcohol involved when she said this. So.
That makes way more sense.
Yeah. So, but
the
I mean,
no
also,
chaser part makes sense.
like, my mom and I did have a really straightforward relationship as well too. So it was never something that I felt I had to hide from her. It was just, again, one of those things that's more difficult to explain to other people. And so I was like, hey, why am I keeping this from her? Might as well just tell her. I mean, they're at the house all the freaking time. And so once she knew, when I came back to Jamaica the next time, she was like, why haven't they come over yet? They're usually at the house as soon as, we get here. Like, did you guys break up? Is something going on? Like, she's very,
invested.
So supportive.
Listen, she was very supportive, so very invested. I mean, I came out to her as, well, bisexual at the time before I transitioned into understanding pansexuality when I was 17, 18. And she met my then girlfriend, who was someone that she worked with. And it's a whole thing. And so, I mean, she had feelings about that too. She was just like, oh, well, is it because, your dad is not around as much, like because we're divorced? Is that why you like women?
Is your mother religious? And I mean, just any religion? Yeah,
she identifies as a Christian, yeah.
Okay.
But she's a cool Christian.
That's awesome. That's supportive.
Yeah, cool she's a cool Christian. Yeah, she just assumed it was daddy issues, and I was like, you think that my father makes me like vagina? And I was like, I'm gonna let you sit with that for a second. And then she met my then girlfriend
in her head of life. Yeah.
Right. And then she met my then girlfriend, and we didn't kiss, we didn't touch. I was kind of like, oh, hey, I'm here with my mom. Can't really talk to you. Gotta bounce. And then when we got home, she was like, I know that you said you were into women, and I had all these feelings about it. And then I saw the two of you together, and you weren't even touching, and you were trying to be respectful of me, but it was obvious that you guys loved each other. So I guess I understand now. It's fine.
That's great.
Super easy breezy. So like I said, no cultural issues here within my close family. I don't care.
Right.
So yeah.
Right.
Cool. Sham, how is it in Jamaica? I'm so curious about this. And I know it's different because you guys are married, and it's a lot easier to explain when you're married as opposed to I'm just out here with a bunch of people. But I'm curious to know how it is in Jamaica.
Yeah, so I am kind of the opposite of Jhenn, where I just hide it from anybody I can, because it's just too much work to try and explain to, I guess, the laymen. So I kind of, when I meet somebody, I may like wait till I learn them enough to be like, all right, can they know this about my life or not?
Right.
So even my mother doesn't know, or I think she doesn't know, because there've been times and that one girl is always over here all this time. Nothing explicit as Jhenn did. So she might have had an idea, but as far as I know, she wouldn't know. So yeah, generally I don't really tell people other than my close friends and my close circle of people. So because I know how Jamaican culture is, and it's not even that I'm ashamed. It's just I just can't bother have to explain or talk to them or have to bag of questions from some people, because if everyone was like you guys, so you're being respectful and you're trying to understand and you're open to the idea, that'd be fine. But the majority of people that I come across, not like that. And I can't entertain a conversation about why I'm going to burn in hell or why I breaking the sanctity of marriage or anything like that. So for the most part, I just avoid telling people.
Yeah.
Were you raised with any religion?
Yes, actually, I was raised Catholic,
Okay.
but over time, church kind of started going less on Sundays and then just kind of living my own life. So yeah, I just kind of
Yeah.
Got
went
you.
the other way.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense, kind of. Is it harder for your wife? As in
Harder in what way, Niche?
with trying to explain it to other people, or her, I mean, based on your experience, obviously you can't speak for her, but just her experiences with maybe trying to explain it, or her circle of friends. As a man, it might be easier to say, yeah, I'm of a one bag
Right.
of woman, but as a woman to say, yeah, I have this other woman in this relationship with my husband, people are giving her all kind of side eye, even if they quote unquote approve of the relationship. Oh, how are you dealing with that? Are you okay? Is everything okay? Kind of thing. I mean, people are thinking it even if they aren't saying it.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Luckily for us, we generally have we mostly have the same friend group, and most are open-minded. So as far as I can think right now, she hasn't had to explain to anyone who would have that kind of explanation. Maybe once or twice, if she's talking to somebody, like trying to set up a relationship, is that similar? Like, you sure I'm good at this stuff like that? So I definitely agree. It's harder just from the standpoint of being a woman. There are certain expectations, and they must say, "Oh, them get a wicked" and stuff like that. But for the most part, it's about the same level of between the two of us, and we both have the same kind of idea. We don't tell everybody, so there's no like worry about like who knows, because we just kind of keep it to our circles.
Gotcha.
Right. Thanks for sharing that. I'm wondering, as you're talking, Jhenn mentioned this a few times, and I don't know that I have a clear understanding of what's meant by pansexual. Can you share more about that?
Oh, yeah. So, like how bisexual is usually like a very binary approach to how people understand it anyway. Usually it's like you like boys, you like girls. I like everyone. I like forks. I like trees. If you identify as a fork, I'll date you. If you identify as a tree, I'll date you. If you identify
I can't see Char's face.
I did not expect that. Nothing surprises me, but you just did. Thank you.
No, listen, I was just like, listen, it just people are always like, oh, so you like pans? Is that why you're pansexual? It's like, no, I am
like
open
pans
to dating
and
people.
Forks.
Listen, pans and forks, ma'am, and trees. Don't forget the trees. Give me some oxygen. But no, I can't help myself. I'm a comedian. Thank you for coming to my comedy show.
I appreciate that. That means you are free to like whomever you would like.
Yeah. I'm attracted to people. It doesn't have to do with what's between their legs. It's definitely more about, our connections to each other. And so whether you're a trans, non-binary, male, female, whatever you want to identify as, I am all about you as long as we have a connection to each other.
Okay. That's really helpful. Thanks for clarifying that.
Oh, yeah,
I feel like I'm in kindergarten and learning a whole new world.
Kindergarten. I was just born. I feel like I just came out the womb.
It's not that bad, y'all.
We appreciate you all like being patient with us and really literally walking us through in a very elementary way. So thank you so much for being patient enough to share your experience in this way. I think we're curious, as someone practicing a non-traditional form, right, of relationships. And I keep using that word, but I don't know if that's PC or not. That's just what we feel like maybe safe, but let me know if that's like okay language, right? To describe okay. What has been most surprising in your experiences?
I guess the only thing that's surprising for me personally is how, I guess, okay I am with everything. Because when we started the relationship, we didn't start with the intention of becoming this. We started, fully planning to just be good, monogamous people, as the Lord
Good
intended.
monogamous people.
And then as time went on, so even in the beginning when it was just like, oh, a threesome or whatever, there were still rules of like, I couldn't see the idea of her with another man, or we didn't like the idea of us having feelings for anyone outside of each other. But then now, many years later, it's just, I'm just okay with all of it, because I just understand our relationship. I know that our love is, strong, our bond is there, and nothing can really break that. So if you have another bond with somebody else, that's not our bond. Our bond is the same. So that's been the most surprising, thinking about where I'm coming from to where I am now.
Right. Huh. Do you think that has to do? Sure. Go ahead, Soph.
So with the relationship, is it okay? For example, the threesome, is it the three of you guys together at one time in the bed, or is it she will have another guy and you're in the next room, or vice versa? Is it like a couple thing where we're all in the bed together, or no?
Oh, okay. All right. Traditionally, a threesome is defined as three people in the bed, all engaging in some kind of activity together. So that would be a threesome.
Jhenn is like,
yeah.
All the fingers together.
If it's separate rooms now, that's more like into swinging, which is where like if you have where like two couples will come together and they'll swap and then they'll split off into different rooms. Then there's
that's not a relationship per se. That's just
no. Well, a threesome is necessarily.
Threesome isn't a relationship.
It's an act. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So I was talking about the throuple. Yeah. In the bounds of the throuple, it was generally the three of us together. Sometimes two people might do something when the other person is indisposed. Should I tell the story? In fact, there was a time.
You have to tell the story.
Now you
hold on.
Now you have to tell the
Sham.
story.
Is it the story that I know?
Yes.
Okay, then you have to tell the story.
Okay. No, so it was simply the day before, either the day or 2 days before my wedding. I was getting last minute stuff. So I was out getting going to the suit place, going to the flower place, whatever. And my wife and a partner of ours, they were in the house together all day, having fun.
She was preparing.
Yeah. And so, I don't know if you know about lesbian sex, but it can go on forever. So I left in the morning, went out, did all my errands, and I came back and they were still at it.
Jesus.
So that's the kind of thing that would happen. Where it's like, are you gonna go do stuff?
Okay.
And of course, as a man, we run out of juice earlier. So there will be times where, all right, I'm done. Y'all can continue. I'm going to stand over here for a bit.
Pass the baton.
Pretty much.
Did you just say run out that juice? So
the
man is being factual, okay? It's facts on facts.
Very factual. And I love the fact that this is very this is factual. This is what's happening.
Yep.
I appreciate that honesty.
So I have a question.
Yes, I really do.
Yeah.
Is there ever for either of you? So like in Sham's case, is there ever a situation where one of you are feeling like separating from the partner, but the other one isn't? Or in Jhenn's case, where you kind of have a connection with one of your partners, but and you don't know how to navigate that space a little bit?
Yeah, I went through a similar dissolution where it was like broke up with one side of the triad that I was in first, and then the other side later on. It's uncomfortable, but it's not undoable. That's not even a real word, but I'm gonna roll with it. It has happened before. I think a very common misconception about triads and thruples and building relationships like that is that usually you have unicorn hunters out there in this world pretending they want triads. Unicorn hunters are married couples usually who are seeking a bisexual woman to be that other person. But there tends to be this very severe hierarchy where it's them and then the unicorn is down here at the bottom of the thing. And so whatever they want her to do is what she needs to do to keep them happy, sort of vibes. There are some ethical ways that you can unicorn hunt, probably by not calling it unicorn hunting. But there's also a lot of unethical practices like that. So you will find a lot of people who say they're trying to get triads and thruples are really just unicorn hunters trying to look for a subservient bisexual woman to support their sexual needs.
I mean,
and be their housekeeper.
it's like you're throwing Sham shade. I mean, what?
No. I'm gonna go explain the next side.
I know what she's
Sham
talking about. That is not what she's not talking about me or how we did things.
No, we're not talking about Sham. So
there's the right way and the wrong way to do it.
Gotcha.
So when you're trying to build that triad or trying to build that relationship, it's a triangle, right? So literally all sides have to touch. You have to build a relationship with every side of the triangle. So it's not just a married couple having a relationship and then you just kind of chilling.
Gotcha.
That's not, everyone has to have an individual relationship with each other. And sometimes it doesn't always work out where everyone is on the same page at the same time. And then you have to figure out, okay, so is the triad completely broken? Are we now a hinge or a V, which is where one person is the apex and they have two partners, but those two partners don't date each other. So with us trying to figure out, okay, is it that we're just not going to all be together? Is it only that one side of the triangle is not going to be together? There are different layers to this. And so I've done thruples, I've done triads, I've broken up with both at the same time, broken up with one person on one side, and then several months later, the other person on the other side. It's just, it's never easy. Breakups are never fun.
Never easy.
So
we're all taking notes. This will be coming on the test.
Frantically taking notes over here.
At least I know what a unicorn hunter is. If nothing else, avoid the unicorn hunters.
Yes.
Got it.
Oh, and the term unicorn hunter comes because a unicorn in, I guess, the swinger world is a single bisexual woman, because that's considered rare, because usually they're either in a relationship or they're only into guys. So the idea was, if you are both of those things, you're a unicorn.
Gotcha.
Oh, okay.
That makes sense.
Okay.
And men are dragons.
Oh.
Wait,
what do you?
what does that mean?
So the bisexual man would be a dragon.
Oh, right.
Okay.
Dragon hunters and unicorn hunters.
Interesting.
Yeah, we
it's
all
like
live
a
in
Game of
medieval times.
Thrones world.
So when I come to you guys and tell you I slayed a dragon, y'all know.
I'm done with you.
Nice.
I might ask you for that dragon's phone number because I'm interested. You never know. The girl has me
on the hunt.
Run the digits.
Deal.
So as we're talking through this, one of the themes that I think keeps coming up, that you almost, it sounds like, need a deeper level of trust in polyamorous relationships than your traditional relationships. Can you both speak to that a little bit, in terms of the level of trust that's really required to make that type of relationship work?
I'll go first. Yeah, there's definitely I don't want to say stronger level of trust, because I don't want to, diminish monogamous people, but yeah, there is kind of something about knowing they're out there and they have someone else, and trusting them to at least stay within whatever boundaries you have.
Right.
Because in a general relationship, you're just trusting that there's no one. In a non-monogamous relationship, there's someone else, but you still have to trust that it's not going to be something you two haven't discussed, something you don't approve of, and so on. So yeah, there's definitely a different level of trust, and something we always hammer down on our podcast is there has to be more communication. You have to communicate every part of the way, because you have to make sure that everyone still feels the same way about what's going on. If you're feeling jealous, if you have an issue with the partner, or how the two of you are going on without me, or with anything, you need to communicate the entire way, because you need to know. You don't want a situation where one person is upset and you don't know because you're too focusing on someone else and stuff like that. So
I think polyamorous relationships don't allow for a lot of the assumption that comes with monogamous relationships, right? Because when you think about it, the premise of most monogamous relationships is about assumption. We're assuming that once you've gotten to a certain level, you're never going to breathe in the other next direction of someone else. You're never going to do anything outside of what we've been taught is conventional monogamy, right?
Mhm.
But of course, as you dive deeper into relationships, monogamous or otherwise, you realize not every relationship is exactly the same. Everyone has things that they perceive differently. For example, I have a friend who considers flirting with someone else to be cheating. I
Mhm.
disagree because I wake up and flirt every day with myself in the mirror. So I can't really cheat on myself. But, just as an example, right? Some people consider flirting to be cheating. For other
Right.
people, it's like, it's only cheating once you get to the sex part.
Right.
So that's so different even in monogamous relationships. So in polyamory, definitely a lot of communication, a lot of patience. Oh, a lot of understanding. I have never had so little sex in my life as I've had in polyamorous relationships in the beginning, because we're all trying to make sure we're on the same page, right? We have to make sure that we want the same things out of this relationship, whether it is that, okay, we want kitchen table polyamory, which is the idea, pretty much is a very simple way of describing it. It's like everyone, can sit around the kitchen table and have coffee together. Like we're all making decisions in a way as a unit, even if we're not all having this intimate, romantic sexual relationship with each other.
Right.
Everyone who is involved in there's another new word I'm going to throw at you, polycule. Everyone who's involved in the group or involved in the union can sit together and have these kinds of conversations and understandings. Okay. Or you could be practicing parallel polyamory, where I have a partner and that has nothing to do with, my other relationships with other people. They don't have that communication. They don't have that, it's more of like in case something happens to me, you have their number as like in case of emergency break glass or a situation. But you guys don't have to have that kind of intimate sitting at the table having coffee relationship between you, because just because I'm dating you doesn't mean I need you to do that. That makes sense. So there's different layers to it, and figuring out where we're all going to be. And then there's a segment of polyamory that people don't like to talk about, where sometimes it can just be about sex.
Yeah.
It can just be a sexual relationship. There's an assumption where, okay, we're having all the sex, but sometimes I'm not. I'm having conversations about having all the sex. That's what I'm doing. I'm talking it out so I can get to that part. But there's different layers. So it's not all this, intensely upper level romance, academic, we're all having these deep, intimate, romantic, sexual, life-changing relationships, everyone. For some people in polyamory, they're aromantic. They don't do romance. They don't feel romance in that way. But it doesn't make them any less polyamorous. It just means that they're just practicing a different side of polyamory. I don't know. I said a lot of words to say a lot of things.
No, thank you for explaining. That was helpful. I think I got most of that. I'm trying to parse the definitions of around like parallel polyamory and
kitchen table.
Right.
That was really interesting what you said, because I never thought about the fact that eventually, like, you can have this relationship, and clearly that's a possibility, but I never thought about it. That you could have this relationship where there's like communion between the people, but maybe one of the partners is not gonna participate in the sex, but they're participating in the relations. And that's when you said that, I was like, well, duh. Like the communication, the definition is up to you. And so you define what this space looks like for you.
Right. And I think that there are so many levels that we don't think about. And I think it's has a lot to do with how we are spoon-fed monogamy, that, you need to be with this one person, you need to marry this one person, it needs to look like this. I mean, even it's just now that we're starting to be okay with woman with woman, man with man. So can you imagine woman with man and same woman with that different man? It's just, there's so many levels to it. And I kind of wish it was something that people were more comfortable exploring or even having a conversation about. I think, as Sham had said initially, people go into it a lot. Even Jhenn, how you started was I am interested in this, and either you start cheating or you're just not happy and it's very evident. And so that should never be how it is, because that should never be how any relationship is. So I kind of wish there was less stigma associated with it, and more conversation of these are relationships, just in general, relationships with people. And I think about it like, these are my girlfriends. Like the three of them are my girlfriends. And they're my friends. Like I can go to them for different reasons, for the same reasons, and we all have a relationship. Why is it that we can't have romantic relationships with more than one people? I
thought Misha's about to ask me something.
Ma'am, I am in search of my dragon. Please leave me alone.
Funny like.
At this point, I guess we're curious about, from your perspective, for someone who's listening who might be interested in exploring this space, right? Outside of them going to your podcast, because we're sending them there first, what do you recommend for someone who's looking to learn more and explore this space, or maybe, right, is in a space where they're like, I don't know, but I kind of want to find out? What do you suggest? What do you recommend?
Do the research. There are so many books written about polyamory. If you are a person of color trying to practice polyamory, the books may not be as inclusive as you would think, because the default of this world is patriarchal whiteness. So there's that. I said it. But there are some great, Facebook groups for Black polyamorous people that you can go to. Even though Facebook is a cesspool, there are some positive things that come out of there. You can do Facebook groups. I definitely also recommend having people in your life you genuinely trust, so you can have those conversations with them. I think that a lot of people kind of keep these things to themselves and feel kind of ashamed and not sure where to go to figure things out. When sometimes all you got to do is tell your best friend, like, hey, I'm thinking about this polyamory thing. I don't know. Like, I don't know much about it. Like, I just need to talk it out with someone. So I have like a whole stack of books about polyamory, like literally right next to me at all times. So I can like flip out like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Is
like,
there one of those books?
Maybe you could make a friend with Jhenn.
Yes, but is there a book that you would say, pick this book up? Like, this is a good one.
One book? No, because they all have their issues, right? So I will suggest just 3 books. So everyone has read The Ethical Slut. If they're interested in polyamory, that's usually their gateway book. It's usually their gateway book. The Ethical Slut, More Than Two is another gateway book that people are familiar with. So those two are, one of those two will be your startup book for a lot of people. Another book I will recommend is Polysecure by Jessica Fern, that talks a lot about attachment styles and trauma and consensual non-monogamy, because it can also help you really open up about yourself and what your life is really like. And then the Jealousy Workbook, that's another really, really good book by Kathy Labriola. There is also an actual workbook that comes with that, but it's also talking about, managing jealousy, because like Sham had mentioned earlier, there's this idea that people are not jealous when you're polyamorous, that compersion, it's a metaphor just for polyamory, by the way. Compersion comes naturally, and compersion really refers to you being happy when your partner is happy in this way. So there's this assumption that, oh yeah, my partner has a boyfriend, that's totally great, I'm just going to be compersion all the time, I'm happy, it's amazing. But sometimes, that little part in your head is like, I'm feeling insecure in this moment, because this partner is doing something with my partner that I kind of wanted to do with them, and that's making me feel some type of way. How do I manage that? So those, your starter book, Polysecure, and the Jealousy Workbook, I think I'll recommend those 3.
Awesome. Thanks. We're gonna have to include them in the show notes.
Oh yes, absolutely.
Yes. Thanks for sharing those. Sham, any advice, recommendations?
Yeah, Jhenn is the more well-read of the 2 of us. I kind of just wing it. Kind of what we've been doing. So
I feel you. I feel that in my spirit.
Yes. So if you're in a relationship trying to open up, it will just be the same I was saying before, that make sure you communicate, make sure you discuss your feelings about everything. If you don't know when to do it, for a while, and my wife had the thing where on a certain day of the week, we would just like sit down and talk about whatever we're feeling. If there's anything that needs to be discussed, if there's anything that's happening that, you know, we have an issue with or so on, which again is something you could do now in any relationship. So I would suggest it for any relationship, but it's especially needed in a polyamorous relationship because there's so many more factors to consider. So yeah, stuff like that. Have your talks, have any discussion you want to have about, you know, outside partners, about how it's going, if you want to stop, if you want to continue, just stuff like that. Just check in on the status of the relationship or relationships as much as possible, just to be sure.
Would you guys suggest therapy?
Yes, but it is difficult to find a therapist that will be open to the idea of non-monogamy.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
We had a friend who went to therapy who was also polyamorous, and the therapist, it's like they would try to give advice, but they would also try to talk them out of the lifestyle, which, you know, that's not really a solution because she was very much locked in. So yeah, it's difficult. That we had on a therapist once who was like, she kind of specialized in this.
We had Bibi Bowie Johnson. She is an amazing therapist. We also had Dr. Zuleika Hepworth Clark. They are another amazing therapist that we can definitely recommend. I mean, there is a network of people who are interested in learning about polyamory. If that's not their specialty in therapy, they're doing the work. We have therapists that we know who are doing the credits, but this is mostly, of course, US based. When it comes to in the Caribbean, I can't promise that you'll find any particular therapist that will be as open and understanding as you require, considering our cultural backgrounds and what we believe wholeheartedly.
Luckily, we are in a world where you can like have virtual therapists. So that may be what you need to do if you can't find one locally.
Gotcha.
That's a good point. That's a great point. Thank you so much. This has been, my goodness. I feel like I learned so much tonight. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you both for being so open and sharing just a teensy bit, I am sure, of your life with us tonight. Sham, you wanted to say something?
I was just saying, happy to spread the good word, you know. And of course, one thing I always want to stress, we're not trying to say that this lifestyle is better than any other lifestyle. We're not trying to push it down anybody's throat. We're just saying, hey, it's an option. Consider it. Don't just dismiss it or dismiss other people's lifestyle because you're not living it. So, yeah.
Let me ask you this, Sham, before we wrap. I know we're at an hour, so we're at time, and I want to give you all a chance to share any final thoughts and also hear from the ladies about any final insights. I'm curious about men in particular who claim polyamory, right? I think to Jenn's point initially about without consent, but will cheat like there's cheating going on in this, like, oh, it's open, but you're not being honest. Like, do you have any insights about kind of what fuels that behavior?
Oh boy.
Help me understand.
Sham looks stressed out.
I'm a little stressed, yes, because I don't live that way, but I know what you're talking about. That's definitely a thing that a lot of men have, and I don't know if it's just a power thing, if they just want to say they have multiple women, because I don't even know. I don't know what fuels. I just think it's just maybe a masculinity thing to say, hey, they can have multiple women because they're so great or whatever. And
are they boasting about it? Is that what you're saying, Carrie? That they're saying they're polyamorous, but not?
No, it's like it's like a faux truth that they're telling the third party. It's like you're the third party coming in.
Okay.
Oh, I'm in an open situation, but you're cheating. But it's like, oh no, it's open. I'm like,
but that's because it's easier. It's easier for the person to accept that it's okay. So if you and another person have a boundary, and the boundary is you can have someone, but these are the boundaries, then somebody else can come in feeling okay about it if they don't know. So say it's harder to keep the secret of another woman than it is to keep the secret that the other woman that you now know doesn't know that they are another woman. I don't know if that made sense, but
man just grab a little. Look at them probably.
They want to have their cake and eat it too. And it's easier to tell people, oh yeah, the cake is for everybody, so you feel okay about it, than to hide that they're even having cake. It's so much easier. So yeah, that's how I mean.
Just reminded me I haven't
That's
eaten
just
dinner
my
yet.
experience with it. You say you don't eat dinner yet?
You just reminded me that I didn't eat dinner yet. But yeah, that's no need to wrap yet. I was just thinking about it. But yeah, that's an excellent point. Yeah, I think they're just kind of using the fact that non-monogamy is growing now, to kind of cover their bad behavior.
Right.
Yeah, I agree.
That makes sense. So ladies, we're gonna wrap because we know, right? This is you've been gracious with your time, but we want to be respectful of your time as well. Any other things that you ladies would like to connect with Jhenn and Sham about?
Like any questions?
Yeah, that we may not have covered.
No, not really. I think the idea of just trying to educate yourself on what's happening and not, I think the thing that's, I mean, personally, I know that even in my marriage, we have discussed non-monogamy. But I didn't know that it was non-monogamy at the time. Like, I didn't know that was a thing. It was just like, this isn't working, maybe this will work. And so I didn't really explore the information like I should have. I think people are too afraid to explore the information. And I think that I want to encourage people to explore the information. It may not be for you, but if what you're doing isn't working, then maybe try something else. So that's kind of how I see it. So I appreciate that you guys are willing to share that, especially coming from a Jamaican community where I'm telling you, people will come to me and be like, I want to do this non-monogamous thing. And I'm like, okay, and that is fine with me. Whatever makes you happy is good with me, because I know I've explored that option before. So it is what it is.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Very true. So, Fanchar?
Well, as a non-explorer, I would like to thank Jhenn and Sham for my introduction. I think this is as good an introduction I would ever get, because, you know, there's something about not knowing and then not being willing to like ask. And it's good that you guys are willing to hear questions and to answer, you know. So I appreciate your presence here. And as you guys are talking, as much as you're talking about non-traditional relationships, I was thinking, boy, maybe we just pick up some of them books, because jealous, you know, like, I'm like, if only you were right when you said all these assumptions, because we grew up in this normalcy, and so this is the assumption. Like, clearly, if we started having sex, you're not doing. But no one talks about the fact that this is the expectation for me, and that's it. Somehow we feel funny about talking about things like that, or somehow they're too much or whatever. And I've decided that no matter what your lifestyle is or where life takes you, you should certainly be comfortable asking about your own life. So I think practicing everything you're talking about with communication, and even those lessons, those handbooks you might all need for jealousy, I just really think it's really, it's good to learn. And the more you learn, the more you ask, and the more you ask, the more you're comfortable talking. And even if this is not for you, I think learning more will encourage you to, if it's not for you, you can support someone or be more accepting or inviting or less judgmental about someone else who's not doing what you might have chosen for yourself. So thank you very much.
Awesome. Thanks, Shar.
Listen, I just want to thank you guys for coming tonight, because like I told you, I really felt like I was just being born. This is all new information. Literally all new information. I am the the typical religious one. So I'm not gonna lie to you, I have never even allowed myself to even look up the word. I know poly meant many, as I told girls. So I just knew that it meant more than one of something, but that was the extent of my knowledge. But I'm really happy that you guys came and share. You have educated me with a lot, more ways than you will know.
Mhm.
And I'm glad that you were open enough to talk about it for ignorant folks like me who just didn't know. At least now, I won't be going from like a judgmental standpoint, now at least I have a good understanding as to what's going on, and not like what you're told. It's just, oh, the man is a whore and just want enough woman, and the woman is a slut and just want enough man. Because that's how I'm gonna be honest. That's how I've always thought of more than one partner, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
But I'm very happy that you guys came and you've educated me. Thank you for the information. And not a reader, but I would definitely watch some videos.
YouTube.
Thank you for coming on our podcast. We really appreciate you guys taking the time out.
Agreed.
Absolutely. We can't say thank you enough. Sham and Jhenn, any final thoughts, any final insights that you want to share as we wrap up?
Well, guys, I am single and available. So if you think that you are a good match for my lifestyle, you can hit my line.
What's your Insta handle?
Jhenn, you have a whole relationship going on. What are you talking about? You forget we paying attention, Jhenn.
Listen,
she has no walls.
I can have many loves.
So that's not a boundary for you, where you get into a relationship, even if it's with a married couple, and they're like, listen, we just wanted to be the three of us. We're not comfortable with you having somebody else.
I would not agree to that.
Okay, got you.
So there is closed triad, which is just the three of them, and open triad, which is you're allowed to date other people. I would not agree to a closed triad.
Got you. Okay.
So
well,
I am available.
Learn something new in the last 5 minutes. There you go.
Yeah, but I think that like I said, just have that real conversation with yourself about what your expectations are for a relationship before you even try to be like, okay, well, I'm polyamorous now. It's like, but what does that look like for you?
Right.
Because polyamory is, of course, like every relationship, is very individual to the people in it. So what is that like for you? Do that research, have that deep conversation with yourself, and you're gonna mess it up the first time. No one's perfect the first time. We live, we learn, we just accept that we have done this, we apologize, and we move on with grace.
That's good advice. Thanks, Jhenn.
I will say, unlike Jhenn, I'm not single, but like Jhenn, I'm also available. But in regards to any last point, since this is a Jamaican-based show, there is a kind of non-monogamy that I think exists in Jamaica that's not, I guess, official. We discussed it on our show, and that is, matey culture. Everybody knows about you have your main thing and your matey. And we saw that in a lot of songs and a lot of like dancehall songs, they will have portrayals where everybody know what's going on, where the man know, the matey know, the main woman know, and everybody is okay with it. And in a sense, that is like, it's almost polyamory. Like it's almost like correct. It's just that they're not calling it that, because even, I forget who sang it, somebody's song said, there's like me like my mate, where it's like, she knows she have a mate, but she's fine with it. And so in a sense, it's like everybody in this little situation knows about each other. So it should technically count as polyamory, but they don't call it that. They rather have it as matey, because matey is who matey is who you're cheating on, or the mate is,
matey is the side woman.
Matey is the side.
There's
and then the mate.
Go ahead, Chad.
Oh no, so I was just trying to, I know sometimes like there's matey and then there's mate and then all these terms, but so there's always an understanding. And I think some of those relationships, not necessarily everybody who's out there giving bun can be polyamorous, but some of those I think are more, it's like they're so close, like you're this close.
if they had set boundaries or had conversations about it,
Yes.
I think that would make it work, because I think people are just assuming, me have my mate, she know, me have my wife, she know, but nobody is talking about, listen, you have your woman, that's fine, but here are my boundaries. And he's saying, seriously, as long as there's boundaries and there's communication, then there goes the relationship, as with every relationship. So
See that. You're an expert already.
Right?
Listen, a relationship is a relationship, and I realized that long time. Like, regardless of if you're in a relationship with a tree, the tree need to know.
That is
Right, Jen? Am I lying? Okay, just wondering.
that is correct.
No lies. They need to know.
It's true. It's
Be in
true.
no relationship and they don't know what's happening. That don't make no sense. But anyway, that is all. That is very Jamaican though. That matey situation, and it's usually just women, because make a woman have two man. Oh
yeah, definitely. That's all the problem. The
shallow
the
grave.
man them. And that's the next thing. Whenever polyamory starts, usually the man will be the more active one in the beginning, but then as time goes on, the woman usually find more, and then the man start to get vexed because he can't keep up. That's another thing that usually happens. Hasn't happened with me yet, but that's something that's the jealousy part, not the keeping up, but
Shamsa, I don't mean that to that. I don't mean that to that.
No,
let's be clear.
Yeah.
That's
I'm just saying.
That's something that I wonder too, with like when the female bring in a partner, being a male, like as the husband, you don't, at no point do you say, well, my wife would actually have more fun with him than she do with me, and I'm feel about it. Like the jealousy part comes, man ego, that's all they have. They're real big on their ego. And your wife, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're like, a Monday really I put it down for my wife. I don't know, man. That'll make you feel funny?
Well, for one, how we set up, there's no, if she's with another man, I'm not going to be there. That's not, we don't do, like that.
That's one of your boundaries.
Yes. It's not even a hard boundary. It's just not something I'm really into. So if she's doing something with another man, I just rather go watch TV or something. But I have felt jealousy in the past, but not necessarily like he's doing it better than me or anything like that. But I have felt jealousy in the sense that if she's out with another man and I'm at home by myself, there's just the moment of, I wish I was doing something right now.
Right.
I wish I was getting ice cream. So in those moments, I have felt that jealousy. So I do understand that feeling, but no, I've never been outright like, yo. But in the beginning, I would say I had that thought of like, all right, I can't. The idea of another man being my wife, crazy, could never do it.
Right.
And then now, years later, it's just, all right, want to talk about it and want everything good, can go on do your thing. So
yeah, that makes sense.
That makes sense. Thank you so much, Sham. You are like, my goodness, you and Jen. No, sir. We have to have you both back because this was so good.
Yes.
We'll be happy to do it.
And we're happy to come on. We're happy that you, as much as you're not necessarily about polyamory, I like that you were open to the idea about discussing it and talking about it, just to know, even if you're not promoting it or trying to do it for yourselves. You just want to be able to say, hey, I know about this now, so I can talk about it more. If it comes up, I'm more informed. So I appreciate coming on, and
people need to respect. People need to respect people's choices for their life, whatever it is. And it doesn't even only have to do with relationships. It just means,
in general.
Yeah,
I agree.
Thank you. That's our episode for today. This was, hopefully you brought your notebook, because Lord have mercy. I feel like we're gonna have to post a glossary of terms with this show notes, including the books and including the definitions. Jhenn and Sham shared quite a bit of information today, so we're going to do our best to capture it all for you. Thank you.
Clarify anything off air.
Yeah.
What's that, Sham?
Oh, I was saying we can clarify anything off air.
Awesome. Yes. That would be perfect. So thank you all for joining us today. We will see you next time. I don't know if it's going to be this juicy though, but we're going to see y'all in 2 weeks. It'll be good for sure. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye, guys.